game you're currently seeing is Endless Space 2, a space-based 4X and the latest installment in the Endless Universe franchise. I wanted to talk about this game and express my thoughts on it. Endless Space 2 nearly misses the mark for me, but that doesn't mean it's a bad game. However, I think Amplitude came up short to a degree in both game design and atmosphere. Keep in mind, this is only limited in the sense that game design and atmosphere is amazing for the most part, but the parts that are lacking have a huge impact on the game as a whole. So to preface why this matters, let's first talk about why people may be drawn to space in the first place. Space is the uncharted, unexplored, and the unfamiliar. It really is the final adventure of humanity. It calls us to explore its never-ending mystery. We look up at the stars with a sense of wonderment and awe, feeling insignificant in an immeasurable cosmos. A quote by Carl Sagan perfectly captures the enchantment that humans have with the great unknown. We invest far-off places with a certain romance. This appeal, I suspect, has been meticulously crafted by natural selection as an essential element in our survival. Long summers, mild winters, rich harvests, plentiful game. None of them last forever. Your own life, or your band, or even your species might be owed to a restless few, drawn by a craving they could hardly articulate or understand, to undiscovered lands and new worlds. This feeling has been expressed through visual media and lets us become fascinated with the idea of what may be beyond Earth. Space is often represented in movies such as Star Wars, Interstellar, and Star Trek, all of these depicting breathtaking extraterrestrial beauty through a cinematic lens. These depictions also extend to the interactive genre. Games such as EVE Online, Halo, and Mass Effect captivated its respective audiences with their interpretations of space travel, each game bringing something unique. EVE allowed the player to explore a massive universe where the player creates their own story by interacting with real people who inhabit the world of New Eden alongside you. Halo astonished us with the depictions of the Halo rings and its mind-boggling scale. Mass Effect showed us a sprawling galactic community and environments that seem as if we too could achieve this. These games all have different interpretations on what the future could hold for humanity, but still all of them accomplish the mysterious and awe-inspiring nature of space itself. New games emerge every now and then, trying to fulfill this craving to explore the unknown. Endless Space 2 has now shown us their depiction of a galaxy teeming with life. Released in 2017 by Amplitude Studios, Endless Space 2 has many aspects about it which gives it great strength in terms of gameplay and aesthetic appeal. Detailed factions that all play differently with unique ship design and a beautifully set galaxy, complemented with an impeccable soundtrack and a simplified and pleasing UI. This should be a recipe for perfection in a game that enters a market that isn't oversaturated. And yet, Endless Space 2 feels like I touched the edge of space, only to come hurtling towards the ground. First problem I have with this game is the hacking system. While I think the system itself is fine, when on its own, it's not as engaging as an espionage mechanic, which I think would have benefited this game immensely. For those who may not know, normally in a 4X you would have an espionage system with spies embedded in your enemy's cities to disrupt and hinder them at any level. In my opinion, this tends to be more engaging by creating a feeling of tension, especially when playing with friends, never knowing if your spy is going to get caught and this will set off a conflict with a neighboring empire. That feeling of successfully disrupting your friends and wondering who had sabotaged them. This isn't the case with Endless Space 2. Amplitude has chosen to go with a hacking system, which is exactly what it sounds like. You simply just deploy a hack from one of your star systems to hack a hostile star system. After a few turns, you'll get a few options on how you'd like to exploit the hack. While there are different defensive and offensive options, they feel passive in nature and don't offer a feeling of satisfaction when you succeed. I could sabotage supplies and hinder planetary defenses, while on the other hand, I could be discovered and in turn have my system hacked. But this never feels like a legitimate threat from all the time I've played this game, and it often becomes tedious. To put it simply, the best case scenario for a hacking operation feels as if I have slung a rock toward a tank. The next aspect that I want to cover is how empty this game can feel at times. Endless Space 2 paradoxically makes space feel both empty yet limiting, like a never-ending hallway. The space lane's design and lack of density in a galaxy is what causes this problem in my opinion. While in our reality and our exploration of space has been lackluster in terms of finding intelligent life forms, colonizing other planets, what we yearn for is the fantastical and the idealized. We crave for bustling intergalactic communities with races far and wide, and beautiful scenery and new worlds yet to be discovered, with the idea of new adventures awaiting us that harken back to an age of exploration. While size, layout, and density can be customized in a pre-game lobby, even when all of these settings are maxed out, the game can feel sparse and limiting. You could feel alone in an arm of the galaxy with star systems far and few in between, while someone else could be surrounded by a cluster of systems that have no bottleneck as to where they can expand. Perhaps map design like that found in Stellaris would be better for Endless Space 2 in terms of denseness. This design choice for Endless Space 2, whether it was made consciously or not, makes this seem as if more could have been done. Hopefully, if Endless Space 3 is ever made, map design will be expanded upon and have more depth in the future. While on the topic of design choice, a comment needs to be made about the combat system. I want to put a disclaimer out there. By no means is Endless Space 2 a terrible looking game. I honestly believe it's a beautiful game. And perhaps I've been spoiled by media with Hollywood budgets, but when I watch ships come out of the void through hyperspace, firing on one another with their weapons and having it set on an infinite stage, I can only feel underwhelmed. While it is unfair for anyone, especially myself, to expect grandiose battles, fights themselves leave me wanting more. This comes down to three major problems. First, the scale of the ships. While they do vary in size, the capital ships of this game don't feel as if a behemoth has stepped in and all participants should take notice. These endgame units should feel as if you are forced to be reckoned with once you've unlocked them, a centerpiece in which your fleet revolves around, but it only feels like a slightly larger cog in a machine. Second, a seemingly chaotic point of view. When viewing the battles, constant and odd changing camera angles can be confusing depending on the angles themselves. The auto camera feature seems to want to give the player a cinematic experience, but will cut out the exchange of fire between two ships to focus on a ship that seems to be doing nothing. While I understand that I don't have to sit through battles and watch them, this feels like a missed opportunity to show us what Amplitude's complete vision of how their universe could be portrayed. Third, the setting of battle itself. Battles seem to happen in asteroid fields that only go on for tens of miles, only to stop abruptly, in habitated star systems that are never shown off unless the player takes control of the camera, and around neutron stars where they only serve as a set piece off in the distance where the player barely notices it. This could have been a chance to show us the worlds of the Endless Universe in great detail that we don't normally get in the game. I would have liked to see a battle with grand scale, with cinematic and consistent camera angles, and environments with highly detailed planets along with stars' asteroid rings. Some of you may be saying that this is just getting my expectations too high, and that I've only disappointed myself because of it. However, I urge you to watch the following clip.
Like Madden football, choosing a play, and I have all my movements decided. I decide to put, my fast ships on the side. I will decide to put my strong ships in the middle, and actually the other choose as well, not knowing which one I chose. The idea with that is that when you play the game, after the battle, you took all your decisions before. Like I made all my ships, I made my strategies, and I will be able to sit back and enjoy the battle to see the result of that. So all these battles are all dynamic, and what we can do anytime in the game is you could always, wherever you are, press space, and what you have is you have a scan view going on the screen, and that gives you all the information you want to see. How many hit points the ships have, much damage they do, who are targeting. It's all like a kind of augmented reality kind of view on that. But if you just want to sit and enjoy the show.
Finally, the last thing I want to talk about is the tech web. This is something I don't blame Amplitude for implementing, but I'll talk about that in a bit. Instead of having something like a tech tree or era tech progression system, Amplitude opted for a tech web. I'm not a particular fan of this system. I really think it's the worst of the three that I'm going to mention overall, third being the tech web. The reason I don't like it is the tech web feels cluttered and it doesn't give me that satisfying feeling of making it to the next section of technology. I don't feel accomplished for reaching the end of a tech focus. In the previous game, Endless Legend, Amplitude opted for an era-based tech system, where if you were to research a certain number of techs, you would reach a new era of your civilization that grants you new and better technology. That idea of progressing your empire to new feats and achievements give us something to strive for and go forward to better ourselves. Another system that would have been suitable is possibly something like a tech tree found in Civilization, where you achieve another era by researching certain technologies. However, there was a reason why the tech web was chosen. Remember when I said I don't blame Amplitude for implementing this? That's because they started out with an era-based system like their previous game, Endless Legend. But the community complained that it was too different and wanted the old system back from the first Endless Space game. While I understand that fans want the sequel to be reminiscent of the first game and not veer too far away from the original essence of the first one, when you are given a better option, I would advocate to embrace it because something can't be better by being the same. However, with all of this being said, I would still recommend that you go check out Endless Space 2 on the Steam store or wherever you get your games. It isn't terrible. It's really good. That's why I've logged so many hours into it. It has positive aspects to it, including the well-designed races, the Senate system, ship design, and aesthetically pleasing visuals and audio. Amplitude Studios is still by far my favorite developer since Halo era Bungie, and with their upcoming game Humankind, I get a feeling of elation and excitement that I haven't felt in over a decade. I just want to let you guys know that my word isn't final, nor is it objectively right. My thoughts are my own and I shouldn't be taken as the final say. You may enjoy Endless Space 2 regardless of what I've said, and that's fine. And I'm certain, in the grand scheme of things, these problems will be nothing more than a trivial bump on the road of Amplitude's prosperous future. So go out there and experience the game. It's definitely worth it.